Oh, look at that. How realistic is that? Well, I mean, it is real. It's just real vegan Parmesan-like cheese. Robust in flavor, kind of dry. It has that sort of aged sensation. And it all happened with literally just a couple of days fermentation and overnight in your fridge. Okay, so you can use cashews, you can use watermelon seeds in this, or even sunflower seeds. So I'm going to start out with 1 3/4 cup cashews. And I'm using cashews because I just have so many of them. But you know what? Just for fun, I'm going to mix in some watermelon seeds because I happen to have them. Now, you saw the char magaz. That's the Indian melon seeds. You saw that recipe for my excellent. You can also use char magaz. All right, you've got to use something that will puree into a very smooth consistency without the need to strain, because you don't want a gritty cheese. Now we're going to start adding liquid. I'm going to start out with a 1/4 cup of water. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Everyone has brine from olives that they don't know what to do with. So we're going to add a 1/2 cup of brine, which will add so much flavor to this. Apparently, olives have the same sort of amino acids that are present in Parmigiana Reggiano. And we're going to add a 1/4 cup of sauerkraut juice. So all of these flavored liquids will not only help to puree the nuts, but they're going to add so much flavor. Now, if you get a little bit of cabbage in with your sauerkraut, that is fine. And we're going to puree this until we get it as smooth as we possibly can. I have here cocoa butter. This is refined or deodorized cocoa butter, which means that the cocoa aromatics, the cacao aromatics have been removed, and so it doesn't really taste or smell like chocolate. You don't want a chocolatey Parmesan. Now you can use coconut oil if you can't get a hold of this, and if you do that, that also has to be refined or deodorized. Now why would I want to use this over coconut oil? It's because it has a much higher melting point, and as you can see, it is very, very hard. So this will help us create a texture of a Parmesan that is very hard rather than one that's a little bit softer that, you know, coconut oil would do. Coconut oil melts at 76 degrees. So if it's a really hot day, you know, your Parmesan could end up getting a little soft at room temperature, whereas with cocoa butter, it will hold up. These are a couple of cocoa butters that I purchased before. As you can see, it says organic deodorized wafers. Here is another one. So you can get deodorized cocoa butter, but it's a little harder to get than refined coconut oil. So if that's all you can get, go for it. Okay, we have to melt this. I'm gonna do that in the microwave. All right, so the cocoa butter is melted. It's pretty hot. I'm gonna pour it in here. This is 150 grams. Get all of that in there. I don't like to add it in the very beginning because you don't want to get the mixture too hot. Okay, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of miso. And that will add cheesy flavor, a lot of umami, make this fantastic. I've got a 1/2 cup of nutritional yeast. And finally, I have 2/3 cup of garbanzo bean or chickpea flour. Same thing. We're going to add salt later, not now, because salt does impede fermentation to some degree, and we're already adding some salt with the miso. The miso will also, because it has live cultures in it, will help to culture this as well. When that's all incorporated, we're going to be adding the thermophilic culture to this, which will help it ferment. You want to make sure it's going to be a little warm. You want to make sure it's not too hot, so you don't need to over blend. You don't want it to be hot because that'll kill the culture that we're going to add. 106. Okay, right around 106, that's perfect. We're going to ferment this at around somewhere between 90 and 100 degrees. I'm going to make it easy for you. Some people write and say, I can't get the thermophilic culture, I can't afford it, whatever. I've recommended many times going to thecheesemaker.com for vegan cultures. But if for some reason you just can't find it wherever it is you live, you can always use yogurt. So a plant-based yogurt. This is homemade, of course. I'm going to just add both, actually. So yogurt cultures are thermophilic, meaning that they love high temperatures, warm places. Thermophilic, loving warmth is what that means. So if you want to go in with a couple tablespoons of yogurt, if that, or maybe a little bit more, if that's all you can get, that's fine. I'm gonna add culture, which is typically what I would use instead of yogurt. But I just want to make this as easy as possible for people all over the world where they may not be able to get the culture of their choice. And different cultures will yield slightly different flavors, believe it or not. All right, now we're going to put this in a sterilized container and we are going to let it ferment for about 24 hours. Okay, I have this proofing box. They're kind of expensive. You don't need this, but this is very versatile because if you're doing a lot of fermentation, it allows you to control the temperature and set it to a variety of different temperatures. Because I've added a thermophilic culture, it's going to go in at a slightly warmer temperature than if I were to add a mesophilic culture, which would be a lower temperature. So I'm going to turn this on, and I have it right now at about 99 degrees, somewhere between 90 and 104, 105, I think would be a comfortable spot. The lower the temperature, the slower the ferment, the higher, the faster it will ferment. If you don't have something like this, and most people don't, there are many other places on a warm summer day, you could just put it outside and then make sure it doesn't over ferment. I've done that before. You could use an electric blanket. You could put it in an oven with the oven turned off. You can put it in a cooler with a whole bunch of blankets to retain the temperature. So there's lots of options. You don't have to have something like this. This is just handy if you do a lot of this. A dehydrator would also work. So, you know, don't feel like you need to have the right equipment. Just remember, for example, you know, cheese has been made for thousands of years and people didn't have fancy schmancy equipment. They just made nature work, so you can do the same. Okay, it's the next day and I went to check on my overnight in Parma mixture and it is sort of bubbling over, just fermented away. So I tasted it, it tastes good. A little sharp, you know, the chickpea flour hasn't cooked yet, so you can taste that sort of rawness. We're gonna cook it out. Parmesan cheese, Parmigiano Reggiano, is typically in a pH range of somewhere between 5.1 and 5.4, and this was 5.1, so perfetto, what can I say? All right, this has to get combined with a starch before we steam it, so we can transform it from this sort of gloppy mixture to something that is really kind of, you know, dry and hard and grateable. I forgot that sometimes when you ferment cashews, it sort of rises. If you're fermenting cashews, select a container that is larger than the amount that you have. All right, I'm adding about 1 cup of potato starch. And I found potato starch works best compared to tapioca. It just creates more of that sort of dry aged cheese consistency. Now, if you don't have potato starch, you can also use rice flour or glutinous rice flour or a combination. You have to use a little bit more of that, so you might want to increase that to 1 1/4 cups or so. And we're going to whisk that really well. Be sure to use a whisk because we don't want any lumps or clumps or dry patches. Okay, now we're going to transfer this to a heat-proof dish because we are going to be steaming them. I'm using silicone molds. I use these for baking and for all sorts of things, but if you don't have these, you can always use some sort of heat-proof glass dish that can go into the steamer basket. So I found that I get 2 big rounds. So I'm going to just fill these up. And when I started MIYOKO'S Creamery way back in the day, these silicone molds were what we used to make our cheese wheels. Okay, I'm placing them in the steamer basket. So I've got water down here in the pot. I have a steamer up here with holes in it, and now I'm going to cover it. And once the water reaches a boil, we're going to let it steam for about 20 minutes until it reaches an internal temperature of at least 160 degrees, which means that the starch has gelatinized. It's going to be soft still when it comes off the stove. It will only firm up completely after it's cooled off. Okay, it's been about 20 minutes. I'm just checking the temperature. It's only 125, so we need to get it up to 160. So the exterior is probably hotter, but the interior is still wet to the touch. It's not as firm, so we have to cook this a little bit longer. So it's been 20 minutes, but it looks like we're gonna need another 5 or so. Oh, see, they've risen. Okay, I'm pretty sure these are ready now. So I'm gonna go in and double check. Not quite 149. This one's not quite ready. It's 160 there. So you can't really over steam these. So to be on the safe side, I'm gonna give it another 5 minutes. All right, it cracked. I let it go maybe a little bit too long, but the internal temperature right in the middle is smack dab at 162, 161, 160. A little bit higher there. So that is perfect. And as soon as this is cool enough to handle, I'm gonna move this to the refrigerator and it will collapse. Okay, so the Parmesan I put in the refrigerator, the overnight in Parma. It was actually overnight in my fridge, and I took it out and I unmolded it and I wrapped it in some parchment. So let's just see what it looks like. There is my beautiful wheel of cheese. And I have this beautiful olive wood grater that I got in Italy, but it really smells like Parmesan cheese. It's got a strong smell. Let me just show you how beautifully it grates. You can put this over your pasta, use it in lasagna. It melts beautifully. You can turn it into a mac and cheese. The possibilities of this cheese are endless. And it really was just made one night in fermentation and one night in your fridge. So maybe it's not overnight in Parma, it's 2 nights in your house. All right, let's take a look here. So I've got this beautifully grated Parmesan cheese. You can see that dry texture. Has this beautiful, robust, aged flavor. So I can't wait to add it to my pasta, which I'm gonna do right now. Just some simple buttered pasta. Okay, I'm gonna add some homemade vegan butter. You know how to make that. You could add some garlic to this if you want, or you can keep it really simple. That butter to melt. When it's all bubbly like that, we're gonna start adding our pasta right out of the pot. I'm not gonna drain it. I want that pasta water sticking to the pasta. This is sort of like an adult version of mac and cheese, very simplified. All right, now I'm gonna start adding my cheese. This cheese works beautifully as well for my cacio e pepe recipe, which I posted earlier. But this is just a simple version of that. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of this pasta water to make the sauce creamier. Let's get this plated. Wait a minute, should I restrain myself from taking a bite and see if anybody else wants to try? Hi, Echo. Oh, it's coming. Echo's coming. He hears my voice. Hello, mister. Okay, way over there, there's Shannon and Turk, 2 little piggies that were rescued from the Maui fires. Apparently the farmer's farm burned down and all his sows ran into the pond, and after the fire went through, they kept themselves safe in the pond, and then they gave birth to all these little piglets. And there were sanctuaries in Hawaii that rescued most of them, but they just couldn't find room in Hawaii for all of them. So we took a couple, and other sanctuaries in California took some. Oh, and look who's here. Koan's here and Argon's here. I have something really, really yummy here, and I'm gonna share. I'm gonna give you 1 bite. That's a yummy treat, isn't it? You like that? Would you like to be overnight in Parma? Unfortunately, that's where they also make prosciutto, and we don't want him turning into prosciutto, because he lives the good life here at Rancho Compasión. But if you want to learn how to make your own vegan prosciutto, I have a video on that. Check it out, link right above. Princess, my pretty girl. Oh, you can smell something. Do you smell something? Would you like a bite? This is really yummy. Would you like a bite? Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna feed everybody here. See, it's not just me that likes it. Oh, Princess, I know. See, You know, you're gonna follow me forever? You follow me even when I don't have food. You're so pretty. You're so pretty. Princess is so pretty. You're so pretty and pink. Yes, you're so pretty and pink.